Hey folks, I'm back from copyright jail, and I figured to get back in the swing of things around here, I'd make a video about my favorite villain in My Hero Academia, Stain. So look, if you haven't been reading My Hero Academia, this possibly isn't the best video for you. But if you have been reading My Hero Academia, you know exactly what's going down. And in this video, there's gonna be tons of spoilers. So if you are behind, make sure you read it and then head on back for this video. So that way, you get your own interpretation of what's happening in the story. It's starting to get a little chilly out here, so let's head inside and grab ourselves a drink and talk about whether or not Stain's return to My Hero Academia will mean anything for the story. Alright, welcome to the bar, folks. Man, it's really good to have this place open again. And to everyone in the premiere right now, what's up? Thanks for coming by. So look, for this explained video, I'm going to be asking the question, does Stain's return to My Hero Academia actually mean something to the plot? And first things first, I've been waiting for Stain to make his reappearance in My Hero Academia, and what we got in Chapter 326 was beautiful. In my review for Chapter 325 that was taken down due to copyright strikes, which now you could check out in the card above, I mentioned that it was a possibility that we move back to Stain temporarily. And in Chapter 326, it's confirmed he does return to the fold. Come on over to the wall for a second, I'll show you what I'm talking about. Alright, so actually real quick, if this is your first time here at the bar, be sure to hit that subscribe button and that notification bell. If you hit the notification bell, you can join in on the premiere like these guys right now going crazy in the chat. Okay, so in Chapter 326, Stain finally makes his return to My Hero Academia. And it's pretty unique as to how he makes his appearance, because for the most part, he kind of appears as a voice of encouragement for All Might, who has really kind of fallen and hit his lowest at this point. So to really answer the question of what does it mean for him to return to My Hero Academia, we really have to take into consideration every single facet of what Stain represents. Because prior to being named the Hero Killer, he was once a vigilante going by the name Stendhal. Now, if you don't know that backstory, I suggest you click the card above right now and watch my Legend of the Hero Killer video, because it'll give you an extensive backstory onto who Chizome Akaguro was before he was Stain. And to be honest, it'll give you further insight as to why Stain acts the way that he does. Because right now in the story, All Might has hit his lowest point, and for some reason, the guy who is the voice of reason is Stain. And throughout this chapter, we learn that Stain may be a lunatic psychopath who's killed over 40 heroes, but at the same time, he envies All Might. He looks up to him. He's more or less been helping the hero since his release from Tartarus, because when you think about it, there is just pure vigilantism on the rise right now, which means right now, Stain thrives. Think about it this way. Remember when Deku saved the big fox horse lady? Stain would have also saved her. That's the duality of this character. He craves ultimate judgment. Whereas those thugs kinda got off easy, Stain would have absolutely murdered them in cold blood. But that's the thing, that's Stain's character. And what he does to service the plot in Chapter 326 is magnificent. If anything, this chapter really does, to me at least, kind of further the point that Stain is really good for a character's development. The way that he sits on both sides of the fences, whether it be chaotic good or neutral evil, whatever it might be, he just kind of evokes to everyone around him a questioning of who they are as a person. Because we understand that his appearance in My Hero Academia has made characters like Ida and Deku grow respectively, but mostly one of the characters that really benefited from Stain's appearance was Shigaraki. Without Stain, the immature Shigaraki wouldn't have the same type of conviction that he has today. Stain acts as a crucial developmental point for both main antagonist and protagonist of My Hero Academia. And honestly, I wouldn't have traded this conversation for the world. Man, if they were in Tartarus and they were talking behind a glass wall with Stain wrapped up in a straitjacket, I wouldn't have liked that whatsoever. To see him really kind of in a corner and yoked up like that, I really enjoyed this confrontation. Because honestly, what Stain does is remind All Might of the reasons why he became a hero to begin with. He was a powerless individual that took the world's greatest power into his hands and changed society for the better. And yeah, All Might made mistakes. Everybody does. Nobody in this life is a perfect individual. And what Stain really does try to hammer home is that fact that nobody is perfect. So when he looks at All Might and bluntly tells him that the flames of justice have wavered ever since he disappeared, he's being honest with him. But despite his retirement, there still will be people that face adversity, and as Stain so eloquently put it, there will be people that refuse to be challenged by the rain nor the howling wind. And at this point, if you're me, you're like, wow, Stain is actually saying something pretty damn profound right now. But what he's actually doing is quoting one of my favorite Japanese poems by Kenji Miyazawa. The poem in English is called Be Not Defeated by the Rain. And the one thing that kind of slapped me in the face was All Might is standing in the rain right now, questioning his entire existence. But the one part of the poem that sticks with me to kind of represent All Might is pretty much the very last lines of the poem. Stand aloof of the unknowing masses, better dismissed useless than flattered as a great man. This is my goal, this is the person I strive to become. Those words echo the sentiment of what All Might needs to become. He sat in lavish fame as the #1 hero for decades, and what he's learning is his admiration doesn't always have to come of that of the #1 hero. Just because he lacks that title doesn't mean that he can't be one of the major forces for good. That last part of the poem doesn't necessarily have to have a negative connotation. All Might needs to understand that sometimes it's better to be dismissed as useless than just flattered as a great man. The key word there is dismissed. Stain makes All Might observe that even though his influence isn't there physically, it's there mentally. This woman risks life and limb to go scrub an All Might statue. This place right here, not even 10 minutes ago, had one of the most heinous bad guys to grace Japan inside of its city square. And Stain wants him to know that he shouldn't be so down on himself, because even though he disappeared, his flames that are just a speckle of what they once were are once again igniting, and he could still be a part of that flame if he chooses to be. And this all wraparounds to the one fact of the matter. All Might is being told by Stain to be not defeated by the rain. And actually, while I was live reading the chapter here on YouTube, someone let me know that the basis for this poem is pretty much Deku's character, and now I totally see it. Horikoshi really loves to use rain as a motif of change. And to be honest, rain has become such a pivotal motif for change or strife in this particular medium of manga that it's used throughout so many different titles that we love and adore. Because the one constant between manga and anime that rain really entails is that once the rain ends, the character comes out of it for the better. Ever since Akira Kurosawa used it in Seven Samurai and Rashomon, it's been scoured throughout Japanese media. So during this storm is the moment where All Might realizes that he's completely useless, but by the end of said rainstorm, he's realized that he may be useless, but he still has more to give. Instead of trying to keep up and chase everybody down, find something that you can contribute towards, like being one of the best mentors for 20-something youngins. It takes Stain out of all people to remind All Might of who he needs to be, and that moment alone is the reason why Stain returns to the series. There wasn't any character in the lineup that could have spoken to All Might in that way. It needed to be Stain to break through to our old #1. But honestly, that's where I have a little bit of a critique for this arc. I know Horikoshi didn't want to come off as a linear writer, but for more or less I was kind of able to predict the past, 7 or so chapters because it was moving in such a straight line. So I wouldn't say that he's a predictable writer, I would just say that this arc was predictable. Because still, this was one of those chapters that had such highbrow writing in it, it still sits among one of my favorites. This part of the story was so predictable because you just understood Deku's trajectory. You knew eventually he was gonna have to return to UA and get a bath. Though to me, Stain was the perfect character to help advance the narrative. Now that he's going to be going through this weird anti-hero arc, he's our gateway to the Vigilantes and to All for One's future plans. And I know some of you, me included, were looking forward to the possibility of the Vigilantes showing up during Deku's rampage, but to be honest, we could kind of put that on the back burner, as Vigilantes is going absolutely bonkers right now in the manga. Like, their war arc is actually becoming an actual war arc. It is spanning close to 2 to 3 volumes at this point. So come back in a month, maybe I'll have a new cockamamie idea of how I think the Vigilantes will end up in My Hero Academia. Also, if you are not reading Vigilantes right now, you are missing out on one of the greatest titles that Shonen Jump has to offer. The story in My Hero Academia Vigilantes has progressed to the point where the character now is reaching their ceiling of power, so it's going to become ridiculous from here on out, and it's a possibility that by the end of the series, we can take that protagonist and put him on the same level as Deku. It's wild. Koichi activated Ultra Instinct, and don't ask me how, I don't know why, it just happened. Look, either way, Stain's return to My Hero Academia means so much for this story. One, there's a possibility that he makes a turn towards being more of an anti-hero, and two, Ida's arch nemesis is back on the prowl, which means more development for our class prez. Maybe that's how the Vigilantes and Koichi get involved, considering Koichi knew Ingenium at one point in time and confronted Stain. Because one of the main takeaways is that Stain wasn't just inside of Tartarus futzing around. He took notes and fully intended on giving them to All Might, because despite the guy being the person that has murdered 40 somewhat heroes, he despises villains more. Some people have thought that Stain provided him with the information of who the UA traitor is, and I actually have a theory as to who the UA traitor is, so hold on for a second, I might make a video on that. It is a little bit out there, and if you were there for the live stream, you kind of know what I'm going at, but it's a possibility, and I might make it into a video. Maybe I'll just cut it out and put it on like YouTube Short or something like that, but either way, it's a pretty crazy theory. Essentially, I think Deku is the UA traitor. So yeah, that aside, I do think that Stain's return to My Hero Academia is a very welcoming surprise, and his return does mean so much for the story because we don't know the contents of the information that he left behind. The concrete fact is, he hates villains more than he hates heroes, and that's a very substantial plot point going forward, because the fact that he was able to take All Might from that dark spot that he was in and pick him back up is astonishing. Despite his lunacy, he was able to break through to All Might and let him know that his deeds have not gone unnoticed. It was an absolutely brilliant way of writing the hero killer, and I can't wait for more. So if you agree with me and think that Stain's return to My Hero Academia was perfectly implemented and it might be bringing forth a little minor arc featuring the hero killer, leave a comment down below. And be sure to let me know about how you felt about All Might's journey to realizing that he's not as washed up as he thinks he is. So all in all though, thank you all for coming by. Those copyright strikes, they sucked, man, and it really kind of killed my channel in the process. But seeing every face in the bar today, it really meant the world to me. So thank you all for coming by, and I really appreciate you. And remember, be not defeated by the rain. Cheers.